podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Ospreys Eyrie.
Hello and welcome back to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast, the podcast who still hasn't been given a central contract and fully expects a Leinster podcast to start 20 minutes after us and up stages, just like they did on Monday. My name is James, as always, and I am joined full house this week by the boys. Yestin, Robbie, how are we? I guess
yeah, I'm getting the gag in. I'm getting this gag in early. Have Leinster got a second row? That's a British and Irish Lion, as in test player as well, on a central contract.
Oh,
other than that, I'm fine. I'm fine. I just wanted to get that one in really quickly because there's been a lot of Leinster chat and I haven't been involved in it this week, which is excellent. But yeah, it feels like all the Leinster supporters are now picking other people to maybe speak to, and Munster supporters are, in my opinion, are definitely chirping up a little bit about a couple of things. But that's a different story for a completely different day.
Yeah, I discovered the best way to do Twitter on Monday, which is to tweet something that will cause people to bite seconds before turning your phone off to watch a film. I saw the Amy Winehouse film, Back in Black, which is both not as bad as it's being made out to be, and also an evil movie that shouldn't exist, considering it's been like produced by her dad because the documentary about her made him look so bad that his dad's gone and like forced this feature through where he comes across really well. Kind of evil movie, but not as bad as people are saying. And I had a perfectly okay time with it. Then came out the other side.
Made a film.
Yeah, exactly. I came out the other side, had 80-odd Leinster fans being furious with me, replied to a few of them, furthering the wind-up, then turned my phone off and saw a different film. And honestly, that is the ideal way to do it, is to just disappear for a few hours in between and not really take it seriously.
My favourite one who replied to you is because I follow him, but is a former Cardiff Met University flanker and Bedford Blues flanker, now playing in Hong Kong, Charles Rylands. Who I maintained the Scarlet should have signed instead of Ewan Shenson, replying to you. I was like, oh, okay. This is just getting because it was getting weirdly personal. And Jamie said after the recording on Monday that he wished he just never tweeted it now. I was like, don't lie, your socials are doing bits.
But this was it, we've been looking to put this World Cup final video up for quite a long time. Do the tease, and then half an hour later, Leinster are by the way, we signed Geordie Barrett. And suddenly, never mind. No attention went to that. It's fine. We didn't want it anyway.
That was. What a weird day. Because they announced Dan Sheehan in the morning, right? Which is fair enough. He's on a nice 500 grand a year central contract. Let's not be around the bush. And then you thought, cool, can't get any better than that. Then they announced Geordie Barrett, and you're like, okay. And then weirdly, with no fanfare at all, they just announced Tyler Blaendal. The next day as attack coach. Stephen, somewhere Sky Sports have just got up like the Undertaker. And then just 2014, 2015 is back.
I know. I love Tyler Blaendal. He's one of my favorite players to watch in that era. Wow. Wait, hold on. 33?
I'm dead certain he's only 33.
He retired due to a neck injury, I think, a few years ago. So I think he retired rather youngish.
Wow. So he would have been...
I still haven't forgiven him for nailing the match-winning penalty to beat the Ospreys in 2016.
Yeah, he's 33, born in 1990.
Wow. So when he was at Munster, he would have been...
Because he was supposed to go to the 2015 World Cup, I'm pretty sure, but got injured.
It
might not be the 2015. It might be for Ireland. I'm pretty sure he was supposed to be in an Ireland squad somewhere.
Be 2019, presumably.
Yeah. Oh, here we are. He captained New Zealand in the 20s in the 2010 IRB Junior World Championships.
Wow.
And then he qualified for Ireland in 2018, but never played, but was called up to an international camp in August 2017.
Right. Okay. That New
So,
Zealand
yeah,
20s team were coached by Dave Rennie.
I'm just looking at it right now.
Yeah.
I'm looking to see who was.
Julian
'Cause
Surveyor was in the team. Rory Grice, your favourite player, listener. You love Rory Grice, don't you, listener?
Do you remember Rory Grice, folks? The Wales team's interesting this year. This has been like Ben John, Aaron Jarvis, Faletau.
Oh, hello. I guess this is the year before Faletau wins his first cap, isn't it? So
it is. We've got a big tangent already.
We have.
This is an excellent tangent that James kicked off immediately at the start of the podcast.
And it's not even and now Leinster have got another piece of central contract news because bloody after seeing you, they clearly watched your video and decided to give him a central contract. Is Jameson Gibson Parker's getting him. So honestly, they still must have like $3 million in the salary cap.
All of them are only doing it for the love of it. Yeah. They are completely unmotivated by money. They are doing it purely because they love Donnybrook and they dream of one day. Yeah, exactly. They love the bridge in the middle of Dublin. They love the one fish and chip shop I went to that once.
They like Temple Bar.
Yeah, they love how posh the spas are, as in like the shop spa, which is weirdly upmarket. They love it. They just want to stay there for that.
Ross Maloney didn't love it.
No.
Poor Ross Maloney, man. 29, didn't get a cap. Imagine being that good and you didn't even get a cap.
If you look through the entire Leinster squad on Wikipedia, it looks like when you look at Ross Maloney, there's a formatting error because he's the only one not in bold.
That's so gutting, man. It's genuinely like, oh, right. Enough Leinster chat. That'll be in a couple of weeks. So, yes, this not a victory pod this week, but we do have proper rugby to get back to in the Urk. Let's start with news desk. Morse. How do you like it? Morse. The best young number 8 in Wales has signed a new contract. Never in doubt. I was definitely very scared he wasn't going to sign one, even though I've known for quite a while because it's been rumoured heavily for quite a while. He has indeed signed a new deal. Former season ticket holder. It's always going to happen. It's the things you love to see. It is the things you love to see. Yes, Tim, talk us through Morgan Morse's new contract.
Yeah, this was the real news of Monday evening, really, wasn't it? Before Leinster decided to kick off and cause chaos. It's good to see young players, staying on. Obviously, we've seen that with Dan Edwards. I know Morse is staying. Luckily, he told me very early on that he was signing the new deal. I just shut up about it just in case someone would attack me. And I wouldn't want Morgan Morse running at me. And I wouldn't want anyone from the Ospreys running at me either. So I kind of just be quiet and just left that to go on the side. And then when it was announced, obviously it took a little bit of time. But yeah, it's all good news. And he's really looking forward to it from what he was saying to me, and so that's another positive as well. And it's a good environment at the moment, and despite the result last Friday night in Europe, it's still looking rather positive.
Yeah, you look at how much he's come on this season for being in this squad full time. From that first game where he was getting stuck in. To then the first few games where he started and he was good, but he'd kind of fade out of games, to then how involved and how much his work rate's gone up in a season. imagine how far he can go in, if we assume it's a 2-year contract, because most of these seem to be, even though it's undisclosed, imagine how far he can go in 2 years, by which point he'll be, what, 21? So
probably about 12, if I'm honest.
yeah, by which point he'll just about have all of his milk teeth in. Just imagine how good he can be by the end of this first senior contract that he signed. Really exciting, really important player to keep hold of. Him and Dan Edwards and so on are the players that feel the most important to hang on to at the minute, in order to make sure you've got this kind of core of young players that will definitely be there and, developing, as Booth's talked about any number of times, players that have an affinity for the club and care about the club. And yeah, that is what's important. That is what's exciting most of all. And yeah, really eager to see him playing again in the coming years.
He's just like watching him come through and sort of burst onto the stage. He has so much development to do.
Yeah.
Like, you could just see it, like, there's times where he's probably been guilty of giving away maybe too many penalties, or, overplaying a bit too much, maybe doing a bit too fitting, things like that. But that'll come with Boothism, time in the saddle. Do you know what I mean? It will come with just repetition of, game time and things like that. And, the main comparison would be to Mackenzie Martin, right? But where I feel he'll have the edge on Mackenzie Martin, maybe long term, is that he didn't get called into a Wales squad to sort of stunt his development. Not stunt his development's wrong, but to not play regularly. Essentially, he didn't have a month of training away from his team. He was with Wales under 20s, but in the bye weeks was with Ospreys. Do you know what I mean? And they even gave him time off from the under 20s where he was exclusively at the Ospreys. So I feel like it would just aid his development so much. And I'm just absolutely buzzing that he's got a new deal.
Yeah, it's the amazing thing about, you go back to the start of this podcast and the way we sometimes talk about this promising youngster, Morgan Morse, who hasn't played a game yet, or, after that Sharks game had played a handful of minutes, had just played, I think 12 minutes he played in that game.
He came on an injury replacement and then went back off, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then finished the game.
And then when there's that talk of him having to start against the Scarlets, because there were some players struggling with injuries, and that feels like a very different player to the one we've re-signed now, for having had these chances and having developed as a player. And it goes the same for Dan Edwards, goes the same for James Fender, goes the same for so many players, Lewis Lloyd, who have come in this season and have effortlessly stepped up. And that's been the really pleasing thing this year, is the way these players re-signing, how different that feels now towards the end of the season than it would have at the start. If they signed a contract immediately at the start of the season to say Morgan Morse has moved on to a full-time deal, full-time senior deal, rather than the academy contract I presume he was on before. Feels very different now that he's had plenty of chances.
And he would have had plenty of interest from other places.
Yeah. No
doubt about it. Like that, in terms of rugby, that try against Cardiff went viral. Like, there wasn't a rugby account with a decent following that didn't tweet it out. I remember Jim Hamilton tweeting it out, and I'm like, whatever you think of Jim Hamilton in his podcast or whatever, he's still a big figure in this industry. Yeah. And you're like, hello, if he's tweeting it out, then it's, the
NFL really, are probably calling.
He's got a bit of NFL about him. He's probably a bit small for the NFL, if I'm honest. But he's got that American football style about him. But he's just hard as nails. So absolutely buzzing. Second bit of news: the squad have travelled out to South Africa. They are staying in their usual base in Stellenbosch. Tom Boter, I assume, is staying at his mum's house. Well, I hope she has good Wi-Fi because, well, what we're about to talk about. So as far as we could see, that all of the Wales internationals have travelled. So Nicky, Gareth, Dewi, Jack Morgan, Adam Beard has travelled. Watkin, Sam Parry has travelled. Some youngsters have gone out, Harry Houston being one. In further news to that, I revealed yesterday that Victor Sekakete and Jean-Jacques Rudolph will rejoin the Ospreys for the two-game tour to South Africa. So again, more warm bodies. As Toby has mentioned before, there is scope to go get the loanees if needed, but they are not being eyed to join on this tour. They need to stay there. The plan is they're going to stay in Bloemfontein. That's good news. What isn't good news is Tom Boter has been cited by the EPCR for a dangerous tackle that occurred in the 12th minute again on Seb Atkinson. Now, Robbie and I were at the game, so we couldn't really see this and didn't notice anything during the game. Someone did GIF it and put it on Twitter this morning, and I don't think it's sight-worthy. Boys, what's your opinion on this?
I don't know really. You kind of like looked at first, you're thinking it's just a okay double hit by Beard and Tom Botha that's just stopped Atkinson from making a break, and if not further. And it's then looking back at it, and obviously when the video clip was shown on social media earlier, you're thinking, how has no one picked that up on the field is my question. And if not on the field, how hasn't the TMO chirped in and said, oh, hang on, wouldn't you want a little look at this? It just feels really weird. But then again, on the other hand, it's a tackle. You know, the amount of double tackles you see nowadays on a rugby field, you know, especially an assist tackle as someone coming in after maybe one person made a tackle. You're thinking, you know, maybe that's just for some people, you know, another double tackle, which you've seen countless times throughout a game. And if you're watching a lot of games rugby over a weekend, you see it loads of times. But it's so it's an interesting one. You can see why a little bit of it where maybe it might have gone up to head contact, but with the assist tackler, I'm not too sure, but I'm no expert in ref chat, so I might have to sense for this one.
No, neither am I. I am not a ref chat expert. I also haven't seen the tackle. I've been just looking for it and I can't find it. I mean, I did see the tackle, but it's probably at a weaker angle. And didn't notice anything obviously dangerous. But yeah, you didn't feel like anything stood out, and it was a bit of a surprise to see that news come in. He does feel like a player who probably needs a bit of a rest. So, obviously it's not the way you want anyone to be suspended, but he has played basically every single game for the Ospreys this season. And yeah, that looks pretty regulation. And it does slip high. It looks like one where if it gets reviewed, the team has probably got no choice but to give a penalty, just glancing at it now. But yeah, surprised, as you'd say, that's maybe been cited, but also, you know, you've got to go through the correct procedures. It does slip high.
No, I agree with the procedures bit. What is just double standard is what's not been cited this weekend.
Yeah. Which
is the big one, which is Jack Yendel's eye gouge. Which, you know, and if that's getting cited, then yeah. So for me, I'd like to think this isn't going to get taken any further. But we'll see. And final bit of news, well, it's more news, but more predictions. Alex Cuthbert on the Scrum 5 podcast did say that Jack and Dewi might not play, or he thinks they won't play. They have flown out with the squad, but it may be a case of getting them more time on grass, getting them some nice warm weather rehab as well. Is the aim to get them in the Welsh derbies, or is it Leinster away? Dewi like to continue, to redo his heroic turnover in the 79th minute, like in Leinster away in 2021. It's a lottery. I'm of the opinion they might play. Simply because I was sat next to them on Friday, and they looked raring to go. It did at one point look like I followed Jack Morgan into the toilets. I didn't, I promise. We were just both going the same way. And then the steward let him back to his seat, but not me. He said, "You got to wait for break in play." I'm like, okay.
In fairness, you're not the Wales captain. And I think that does allow certain privileges.
True, but still, double standards, man. This is supposed to be a working class town. I'm just as working class as the Cumtoch boy. So yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that,
the impression I've got is that Jack is closer to return from injury than Dewi. But this isn't well sourced. I definitely wouldn't be expecting to see Dewi Lake, on the bench or starting this weekend. Where I think Jack Morgan's got an outside chance of playing this week, and wouldn't be surprised if he features the week after. Having had that brief chat to him before the Munster game, he seemed quite happy that he was close to returning, and said he was close to playing. And again, having had, Dewi Lake having walked past him a couple of times recently, he looks all right. He looks fine. Whether that means he can play 80 minutes or even 20 minutes is a different matter. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how they're each getting on. You trust this medical staff and the coaches to assess them properly. And it'd be great to have them back as a boost. Would have been perfect if they could have come back in time for the Gloucester game. But alas, wasn't to be. Thankfully, we've still got something to play for in the closing stage of the season as they hopefully run out again.
I wonder who else might have gone out. Will Griff, maybe? He was looking quite spry.
Well,
I'm not sure about Fender.
So I heard James Fender is apparently there or thereabouts was the phrase used. So apparently he's close to returning. No. Apparently this is from Toby Booth. This is apparently Booth has said as much that Fender is very close to return.
That would be nice.
So yeah,
give poor
that'd
James
be good.
Racing a rest.
Yeah, and his injury I think was said to be maybe like 6 weeks at the time, and it's been 7 or 8. So fingers crossed.
Perpignan, wasn't it? Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So that was news. Pretty light on news this week. Right, let's talk about the day first rather than the game, because we were both there. Yesterday, unfortunately, couldn't make it, so you're going to have to talk about Espador input. Who I walked past Race Priestland and Lynn Jones many times that evening. So, Robbie, talk us through your version of the day and how weird it kept getting weirder and weirder.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you go to so many games. I've been to one like the last 5 weekends in a row, and I feel knackered from having done all the travel.
I don't know how I do it either, because I covered the cup finals a couple of weeks ago, and that was 3 games in one day.
Oh wow!
A lot of coffee.
Well, I don't really do hot drinks, so it was kind of like water, but there was free food provided, so it kind of balanced it out, I suppose. But I don't know how I watch so much rugby, especially attending games, if I'm being brutally honest. But I find a way, I suppose, if you want to use a Boothyism. Sadly I couldn't make it Friday night, but I'm not going to South Africa, so there's a nice little break over the next few weeks. So I'll enjoy the downtime and watching the games on the TV instead.
Let's go to Leinster. Let's all go to Dublin. We'll go to the RDS.
I might get personally attacked by British and Irish Lions claims.
Yeah. So O'Shea is going to hunt you down.
He probably has already. That's my worry.
No, I'm at a rugby club tomorrow, a professional team, which almost counts, and then Wales women the following week for the Italy game. So I feel like I should just travel over to Dublin the following week and watch the Ospreys there, or go to Eurovision, same event, same night. But yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. But yeah, Gloucester I think was one of the biggest grounds to visit on my kind of rugby bucket list that I hadn't been to. And I'm so glad to have ticked that off now. It was everything I hoped for and an absolutely glorious place to go, result aside. It's a really unique and different atmosphere to almost any other Premiership ground. You can tell, as you mentioned earlier, but that fixture between the Ospreys and Gloucester is really rare within rugby, especially in the UK, and especially Anglo-Welsh fixtures in particular, where it adds that kind of spice of an Anglo-Welsh game. It is two towns where rugby is a working class game, and you had two working class sets of fans, and so it was the closest to a kind of football-y atmosphere, I think, and two sets of fans that were really chanting and singing and going for each other, but tongue in cheek, and there was no kind of animosity, but there was a few like times where a group of Gloucester fans would start a chant that was anti-Ospreys, bantery stuff, and then there'd be a counter chant starting following, and it was a really different vibe to trips to Leicester or Saracens or so on, where you kind of had two very different ways of watching a game clashing.
It's a lot of golf claps and well done, chap.
I must have mentioned it on here. The Saracens fan who told a load of Ospreys fans to stop singing because they were annoying him during a game. But you kind of had, two teams with quite similar approaches coming up against each other. And it's fantastic as an atmosphere. And the whole day leading in, an awful lot of Ospreys fans travelled over. I think the figure was around 900, they said, which is great. And to say they sold about 9,000 tickets, about 10% travelling support, isn't bad at all. But yeah, really exciting, phenomenal day. And Gloucester's a lovely town with a brilliant stadium, and they do so much around it to build that atmosphere.
Yeah, so I travelled up from Southwest London, documented my travels on the Twitter account, which got some chuckles out of people, especially going to Sale Place and Gloucester Place. So we arrived at Kingsholm, and I went and met Robbie. So if you know, the Osprey sort of arranged for a bar to sort of host us,
Lance Bradley's
which is
bar.
Lance Bradley's bar. Yeah. And it was brilliant. They were lovely. They were super nice. It was a lovely location down at the Quays. They even put on like our own beer called Twin Town with our logo on it, and it was lovely. Huge thank you to everyone that sort of came over and said hi. To Robbie mainly, but you know who you are and came and saw me as well.
No, there were a lot of listeners who came over and said hi and mentioned the Listen podcast.
Great to chat with Grant from the Supporters Club as well about some stuff. It was Grant, wasn't it? Yeah. So Lance, all the Osprey staff were there as well. So really great.
You properly moseyed in and had a chat with Lance, proper schmoozing.
I just said hi and just said, keep our name out there. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to keep the podcast relevant. Apologies for keeping us going, guys. Got to pay the rent somehow. God damn, bloody Scarlett has Scott Snedden on this week, so I'm gonna have to go find like a random academy coach now.
The problem is it's Paul James, isn't it?
Yeah, shit. Who's the other one?
James Hook.
Oh fuck.
Who I have history with. We can't let that happen again.
Damn it.
I can just not turn up that week, so Yessin can take it on his own.
Rich Kelly getting you. Then we marched over to the ground. We went to the tunnel in which the players enter, where we met up with Carwyn from the Cardiff Central podcast. who was a proper fancy journalist who was there with Sport in Wales. So I had a really nice chat with him. Lawrence Dallaglio walked into the press box and I shit you not, everyone booed him. Like Gloucester and Ospreys fans just like boos, and there was like one shout to wanker. Which might have been one from the Gloucester staff. I don't know.
Hey, no, I have it on good authority. Wanking is not his thing. He has more expensive ways of dealing with that situation.
True. So that was great. It was the Welsh press had clearly travelled up because there was like Johan Dyer was there. I think Ben James was there. There was a good few of them there. Great. All of the Ospreys fans sort of welcomed this team in, and then booed the Gloucester team coming in. So
had Toby walking on his own separately as well, not through the tunnel that had been formed, just round the back, trying to get through the media entrance.
Yeah.
Word got out he was walking by, and he got the biggest cheer of the day.
So the best part of this bit, though, so a disclaimer, as I've told many times, I grifted my way into some tickets from Jamal Ford Robinson, and we met him beforehand to pick up said tickets. So we met and had a chat and various things and discussing some stuff, having a catch up because it's been a while. And then he said, right, I've got to go do some pre-match stuff. And I thought, right, they've already been in the stadium, he's got to go get strapping done or something like that, rugby things. No, he had to go out onto this industrial estate to get on the team bus, to then get off the team bus to walk down the tunnel to no Gloucester fans because all the Ospreys fans were there instead. So that was a very, because it was only us who knew what was happening. I was like, yeah, he's just got on that bus like 2 minutes ago. Probably not even sat down. So we went into the stadium then. It was, the atmosphere was building really nicely. Like I said, great travellers for a lot of young fans, kids with their parents, but also then like that 20s to 18 to 35 range. So we went with myself, met up with Robbie, my mate James, and Hugh Griffin from Scarlet Fever and Pirate Rugby Pod, who, bless him, got outed as a Turk straight away by drop goal hero. What's his name? The little one. Rodri and his dad outed him as a Turk straight away. So shout out to Tony and Rodri. And the chance he's a Turk were thrown at him. But he took it in his stride.
Took it in his flat cap.
Yeah, took it in his flat cap. But yeah, Kingston was definitely one of them ones I needed to tick off my bucket list. So we made our way to our seats, and so Robbie, you were sat. You were sat by the...
Right in the corner where Gloucester scored, yeah. Right down, maybe 10 metres out from the line. Right down the front, maybe third row back. In amongst, so, obviously we all had the option to go in the shed. And I don't think I'm not too big to admit I was scared. I was scared to be on my own in the shed, just like I was with my dad. And seeing then where I ended up, which was sat next to a 5-year-old girl at her first rugby game while her dad tried to explain what out on the full meant, was a very different experience to how I'd imagined a first trip to Gloucester, where I'm the one minding my language. Was a very, very different experience.
We had a slightly different one. So we obviously got our tickets and we're in the friends and family bit for Gloucester. So to my right was Gavin Hastings, who gave me the most deadpan evil look when I shouted "way" when Adam did something wrong during the game. In front of us, I'm convinced, was Adrian Varney.
Oh, wow.
Which is Stephen's dad and future Nice Hall of Famer. Probably done a cameo for them as well. I'm pretty sure he actually has. And then we had like Mateus Alemano, one of the Gloucester Academy lads who I was chatting with, who's really good at under-20s. I tell you now.
Josh Hathaway?
He was there, but he wasn't sat.
Okay. I
in...
leant against the chair he was sitting on, and he gave a look of slight annoyance when I moved the chair.
You did get that did
Yeah,
happen.
that's going to be one day
I
when
was going
he's
to come
playing
on to
international
that.
rugby. That's going to be one of my anecdotes. I go, oh, well, I once mildly annoyed him while he was sitting on a chair.
Oh, Afalasi Fasogban, I think that's how you say it. The England under-20s prop, who was at Irish and then goes over Gloucester. Very, very good player. He was there, and then to our left was sat all the Ospreys contingent that travelled up who went playing. So it was Liam Edwards, Will Griff, Jack, Dewi, Yeston Hopkins with his moon boots, and maybe one more. But they travelled up to obviously see the team, and there was a splattering of other players and stuff around. So yeah, it was really good. And then at the end of the game happened, and we sort of got separated from Robbie as we went down to sort of see Jamal. I went to say thank you. I said, "What's happening?" And then we got invited over to Teague's. Now, Teague's is a pub opposite the stadium, like literally directly opposite, which is owned and operated by Mike Teague. So I texted Robbie. I said, "Do you fancy coming?" And we came over and we got chatting with some lovely Gloucester fans. Had some great conversation with some very drunk Ospreys fans. Shout out Harry and the boys, who are great. And then we started drinking. Well, we weren't really drinking. We had that sort of one beer with Joel Ford Robinson and Lewis Ledlow and a load of academy lads. And then Mike T came over and said hi to everyone. And we were like, if we were all going home and it was incredibly tired, yeah, I'd let you buy us drinks, Mike Teague. But it was just the night. It started weird and it ended weird, like in the best way, though.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
And then we had an incredibly inebriated Gloucester fan follow us through the centre of Gloucester where we were walking back to our car, and you were walking back to your hotel.
Yeah,
and he just kept shouting like daffodils at us.
Daffodils. Because I think it started fairly aggressive. It was just sort of a get out of our town, you lost. And then he just followed us through town yelling the word daffodils over and over again, which is shit banter. Fair play to him.
It was awful banter. All right, what I will say is the individuals who I met, their banter was particularly awful. Gloucester do not like you booing the kicker as well.
Oh,
they're really big on rugby values.
It was, there were a few Gloucester fan accounts that tweeted about how great the Ospreys fans were. And Jamal mentioned afterwards was that they were maybe the best away fans he'd experienced at Kingsholm, which was amazing. And it was loud and it was different. And, having spoken to a few people who watched it on TV, said the same thing, that it really came across how much more level than normal the atmosphere was at Kingsholm. But there was apparently one Ospreys fan who booed a kicker at one point. And so if you read any of those Gloucester fans, it's always possible, there was one who booed the kicker. So therefore the other 800 are invalid completely.
Yeah, scum.
Yeah. The lowest of the low.
Genuinely, that Rugby Gloucester account, who was a lovely guy, by the way, tweeted back and forth to him. Tweeted saying, the Ospreys fans were brilliant. They sang all night, they outsung the shed, which doesn't happen. And then one man basically called us like Hitler's children because one of us had the audacity to boo Santi Carreras. And I was like, "Geez, you've never survived like a French second league game, would you?"
Well, most of the French second division crowd is just yelling at the touch judge that the kick was further along that way and you should get an extra 5 meters off a penalty. Is what I learned. That's the crowd's role.
There's a lot of similarities to the French second division and the Welsh, like East Central 5.
I bet there is.
No, the French second division seems like a perfect league for me to go to and watch next season. Especially if they're going to just shout to the touch judge to move up a few meters. I'm all for it. If someone could sort of work placements for me or any Pro D2 club, please give me a shout because
is there a French EDC?
Sam Lana will be right on that.
Oh my God, I'd pay to watch you and Sam Larner go on a road trip, just to different French Pro D2 clubs.
Genuinely a great idea.
That's you could even like top
I-
off for the weekend, like watching, I don't know, Toulouse, if DuPont was playing somewhere.
Ooh.
Just like top off the weekend, thinking here's like one end of the scene, a massive scrap in the Pro D2. To the other end, just seeing Antoine Dupont like put in the chip and chase and beat like 7 defenders to score a try. I
So
think
can
I think it's a brilliant idea.
I think it's a great idea. And like, so I almost so okay, here's an anecdote. I'm not sure if I've told publicly before, but a few years back, someone from World Rugby got in touch with me after I'd done a bunch of stuff in the pandemic, about doing in the lead up to the World Cup a show called Tour de Rugby, where I would go around France and the venues of the World Cup and do like a travel blog thing where they take me around and they do the stuff. And they were pitching it to a bunch of different places. They're pitching to like YouTube originals. They're pitching to a few like online broadcasters, potentially World Rugby's YouTube channel as well. And they kind of had this idea and they had got a package ready to go and they had a pitch document. And I saw it all and I saw all the, the PowerPoints and the slides and everything put together with me attached as the host. I'd go around and do it. And it just sort of rolled on over maybe 2 years or something. Every now and again, every few months, I'd get like an email or a text from the producer saying, "We're still working on this thing. We're pitching it to a new place this weekend. Are you still available for it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, grand, whatever." And then, a year passes and I don't hear anything about it. And I figure, oh, I guess it fell apart. I guess nothing came of it. I hadn't heard from the producer in a while. And then about about a month before the World Cup, I am casually scrolling through Twitter when I see a trailer drop for Tour de Rugby with Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
And I looked it up and it is produced by the same people. It's the same show that they wanted me for. But now with Taika Waititi instead of me. And
Brilliant.
I mean, look, I don't know how to take it, whether the fact they clearly couldn't get the money, then the moment they got Taika on board, they dropped me like a stone and didn't even tell me, or the fact that I was first choice above Oscar-winning filmmaker Taika Waititi. That is something I have lived with for better part of a year now.
That's brilliant. That is genuinely a fantastic anecdote. Sorry, when we were picturing Pro D2 and like bottom tier French clubs, I was like trying to think of like random players who play for these teams. So I was like, right, I can't wait to go watch Evan Olmsted play for Argent.
Oh, good player.
Good player. Against like you could have the Canadian derby of Cast versus Argent. It's
Ardron versus
Ardron and Evan Olmsted.
Oh. Grenoble have just signed Gershwin Mouton, the Namibia winger, who was great in the World Cup. I'm so glad to see him get a club.
Who else? Argent have signed Santi Cecino from Gloucester as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That'd be, yeah. I know it's bad for rugby, right? That we're hemorrhaging our players too. We're like Irish doctors, right? We're just going off to places we shouldn't. But it is funny to see who Pro D2 are just signing.
And it also allows so many players who couldn't get contracts elsewhere, and particularly tier 2 players, like so many of the Romania and Georgia and so on squads play in the Pro D2. Portugal's basically an entire teams in the Pro D2. And it allows a competitive, strong level of rugby for those players. And Sam Davis.
Yeah. Ross Moriarty. I was about to look at something, but it's
Thomas Zazana at Montalban.
Oh yes, I think he's the one. Like if you're he joined and everyone's like, "Ooh, hello." This guy looks good. And then he was at Montalban within a year and a bit. So okay. Shall we talk about the game? We've put it off long enough.
Sure.
We won't spend too long on it. Right, Yeston, you watched it on TV. Talk to us how did it look from the telly?
I was a bit nervy to begin with, especially when the set piece started to falter. And then all of a sudden, Jack Walsh makes a break and sets up a try, and you're thinking, right, it was a little bit shaky, but that's a really, really good first 15 minutes. Then obviously, Carreras kicked back kicked back into a point behind, and then when they defended the first rule in Molly, thought, right, that's okay. Just make sure you exit and nothing silly happens. Then you give away a penalty, they go into the corner, they score from the next maul, and you're thinking that might not have been the plan, but there's still a long, long time to go. Then you narrow the scores down a little bit with the penalty before half time. You're thinking, do you know what? There's still a sniff here. They haven't played particularly well, but there's still, they don't do anything really, really bad in the second half. You're thinking, right, this is a game to be had. Then it just felt like it was just a little bit of overplaying around halfway. That's where I kind of felt like. And as much as everyone loves Jack Wills for the first line break, which sets up a try, the one he gave away at the start of the second half was a little bit of a killer, and you thought, that might not work again. And one of the niche things I found from Friday was the box kicks, where Ruben Morgan was sticking up in the air and they were all fine. Well, the majority of them were fine, but Gloucester had about 3 or 4 players just shielding whoever was in the backfield just to catch the thing. And I'm still waiting for World Rugby to probably make a tweak on this in the near future. Because because a couple of images you see sometimes 4, maybe 5 players just like shielding around, and most teams do it, and it's kind of like
awful.
Common practice nowadays.
Genuinely awful.
So you see the Gloucester do it with like 3 or 4 players do it, and you see the Ospreys players do it. You might have one chasing back, either the winger, and then the back 3 player then is normally coming in to take it, and you kind of just felt like that was the difference. And it felt like the first 10 or so minutes in the second half, Stephen Varney really kicked on, and I think some of his box kicks, especially during the second half, were really good, and that was kind of like the slight difference, which kind of got them over the line, except for the set piece, which was weirdly misfiring, which is not an Ospreys thing to do at all.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was what Booth said post-match, that it was a very un-Ospreys performance. And I think that was the disappointing thing. He said that it was exactly the phrase I think perfectly summed it up and I wanted to hear, in that they gave the level of effort they looked for, but they didn't show what they're about. And that was the disappointing thing. Because I do think it was one of the weaker performances of the season. Obviously, Montpellier is a kind of outlier where they threw a lot of young players in last second, and a lot didn't go right there. But yeah, it was a frustrating game. As you say, you felt like the first 20 minutes wasn't great. Then Jack Walsh makes that break, and Keelan Giles scores that try, and you feel like things have settled down, and that's the moment given, and they can kind of kick on from there. And it didn't quite happen. There was an awful lot of, perhaps, again, something that Booth talked about a lot is big moments, is winning the big moments. There are a few moments where you felt like they did win those big moments and then instantly made a mistake and it slipped up and slipped away from them. The most notable being the Justin Tipperick maul turnover immediately before the try. The Ospreys win possession, win a scrum, and then a penalty is given against them at the scrum. And I, couldn't comment on what happened.
Same here.
But it felt an awful lot like that they didn't adapt the referee at all. The referee didn't like what the Ospreys were doing, and they didn't change the breakdown or the set piece in order to fit how the referee ran. And obviously only get a few days to do that, but they still do find out the referee on the Monday and are able to adapt to that. And then during a game, you can make tweaks and you can go, okay, this guy's really hot on this tonight or that tonight. And they weren't doing that, and they weren't adapting to that quickly enough. And so, yeah, if they even just clear their lines and get up to the 22, that's a very different situation. Even if they don't win the penalty at that scrum, to conceding a penalty, Gloucester going for the corner again, scoring that try. And then you get into the last 10 minutes and maybe there's only 3 points or 5 points in it. And again, it's very, very different. I think the other big moment was in the same corner where the penalty with which Owen Williams hit the post was a moment that was right in front of me. Gloucester looked out on their feet and looked quietly delighted when they went for the posts, when the tee came on.
Yeah.
And that felt like a moment from, again, being right in front of it. And admittedly, even from the sideline, you can't read the energy on the field in the same way the players and the captain can. But that felt like the moment to go for the kill and go for the corner. and perhaps try and look for that try to get back ahead rather than narrowing the gap to 1 point. That for me felt like the big turning point, because he then hits the post, Gloucester clear downfield, and suddenly they've got the ball in 22 instead of it being 3 points. It's 0 points and Gloucester possession just outside the 22. And I wonder whether that was the moment where they need to be ruthless rather than patient. And that patience has got them awfully long way this season. And it's perhaps finding out odd moments to put the foot on the throat and work out when that's coming. And that's something teams only gain with time and with experience. And like you look at it, was something that the 2019 Wales team were really, really good at, was knowing when to wait and take the points and when to know this is it, actually, now we go and now we switch on. And, you saw that against South Africa in the World Cup quarterfinal, semi-final rather. You saw that, the England game in the Six Nations. You saw it, any number of times. And it's something this Ospreys team will hopefully develop. But yeah, didn't feel like it was there yet. There was a lot of themes that have perhaps been mildly worrying this season that just didn't click. And then there were things that have been really, really good this season that just didn't click in the same way. And it was a frustrating, difficult game, but one I think this team will learn from once they've managed to get over it, because it's going to be a huge emotional blow for this side, as we've talked about post-match.
There's not much more to say, really. It was a shit game, and Gloucester were just slightly less shit. Like, as games of rugby have gone, that is one of the poorest I've watched. Like, Gloucester didn't offer anything. Like, let's not put them on a pedestal in here and say that they offered, like they played sexy, expansive rugby, or they threatened the line in open play. They didn't. They were poor. Max Llewellyn, he carried well, but ultimately they didn't get anything from open play. Like, they kept going for the reason that Santa Carreras kicked, 18 points or whatever, was because they were getting nothing going off the maul. They couldn't drive, apart from the one try, they couldn't drive it in, and then they spread the ball out into midfield and would get turned over. I very much, it's not that I am blaming the referee, but I do think you put a different referee in there. He maybe refereed to scrum a bit differently. The breakdown was a bit of a mess, if I'm honest. I'm not angry. I'm not, curse French referees and things like that. We had some really good chats with Ospreys fans and Gloucester fans who were all pretty much had that same opinion. It was, this game could have gone either way. And we're talking here about 10-point loss. That's not a big loss at all.
Yeah.
So look, I'm happy. And Josh Gardner pointed out on Blood and Mud that this Gloucester team have had a lot more time off than the Ospreys have.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to Hugh Griffin, I was like, just even though we've used the most players this season, barring Leinster, the core of this squad have been together and played together a long, long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, gutted, absolutely gutted. Of course I am. I'm good. I'm #proud of the team, like with Cardiff. I still have question marks over Owen Williams. He didn't have his best game. Sam Parry, I love Sam Parry, right? But he'll know himself that wasn't his standard. Yeah. I thought Morgan Morse was brilliant when he came on. It is probably from an Ospreys point of view really difficult to come on and make a difference to that game.
Yeah.
I thought Jack Walsh went really well. I'm really impressed with him, and he's starting to turn heads a bit now. Philip Atetier said on Scrum 5, big fan of him. Cuthbert, talked about how when they were at Exeter, he was always in the second team and would just carve the first team up, and you can see that. There's been lots of comments on the Exeter fan pages in which they talk about wanting Jack Walsh back and things like that. So I think he's brilliant, and we know Giles can finish like that, and I thought it was a really, really good finish by Giles. So absolutely gutted, but I'm glad we got the monkey off our back.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we end up in the Challenge Cup next year, there's a real chance we can do something similar and be consistent in that cup run.
Yeah. Yeah. And with hopefully, as Bruce talked about, hoping to have a stronger squad next season, having a few more players to rotate, not having a World Cup hangover for a few players. If Adam Beard and so on can come back fresh, and again, hopefully you don't have, a career-ending injury to like a George North or so on, leading no centres available. But there's a lot that can be done. And chance to kick on next season.
Should we put that game to bed?
Yeah.
Dead and buried?
Yeah, it's ancient history now, isn't it? That's what
ancient history, as what Boothie said.
So, I did also buy the Gloucester mascot in the club shop. The little
very disappointing club shop,
which I thought was all right.
It was a shed with some fake grass in it.
Yeah, which is but they had a pleasing number of items in the sale to say we're still quite way off the end of the season.
Yeah, they clearly are sick of their anniversary now, and they've just put all that stuff up for sale.
No sales. Who we played last week? It was Gloucester.
Yeah, true.
Sorry. Keelan Giles, as a bonus factoid for you, right? Because I've now got a note where I keep track of this. 2 tries behind Tommy Bowe, 3 tries behind Sam Parry on the Ospreys' top try scorers list. He's moving up. Because Sam Parry is now above Tommy Bowe. Keelan's in 6th place.
Tommy Bowe still looks like he'd come out of retirement. He'd probably come out to score more.
Or you could at least I reckon Keelan could do a feature on Ireland AM if they want to swap places. If he could learn to roller skate or something.
If Tommy Bowe coincidentally lands himself out in South Africa next weekend and the Ospreys hit an injury crisis,
Mike Phillips style,
it wouldn't surprise me that he'd come on and score a brace in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, like Mike Phillips to circa 2017.
Just so weird. Like Mike Phillips and Herschel Yankees both coming into because the Scarlets ran out of scrum halves. What a weird contrast of 2 9s. It's brilliant.
If Scarlet Fever ever want to borrow a good player, I will appear on that podcast to facilitate that game in particular because it is like folklore. So speaking of good player, we were thinking I was thinking what we could do. So we put some out. We've looked at a couple of the Cheetahs games before and different squads around there. So we were like, right, maybe look at specific South African players. We talked about Marvin Ory maybe, but that's a depressing season. I don't want to think about it. JJ Engelbrecht. Who else do we talk about? Ricky January.
Ricky January, yeah.
So then we were like, actually, so I was like, oh my God, Stefan Watermeyer. So I found
one of the greats.
Stefan Watermeyer's debut. So today on Good Player, we are going to be looking at the Newport Gwent Dragons versus the Ospreys from the 27th of January 2012, which was a Friday night kickoff at the Morganstone Brewery Field.
I remember this game way too fondly. Was it a midweek game? Was it like a Wednesday night game?
No, Friday night.
Right, it was a Friday night. Okay. Because I remember Stefan Watermeyer tweeting this was the most nervous he'd been for a game since his professional debut. I remember being weirdly very excited during the school day for this game. I think because it was, big Welsh derby, I think it promised to be high scoring. And was very up for it.
So let's do what I always do, and let's look at the charts that day. So let's look first at the singles charts. So at number 1 was Domino by Jessie J. Not a good start. Mama Do the Hump by Rizzle Kicks, who I actually really like Rizzle Kicks.
I'm glad.
Fun fact, one of them appeared in a Star Wars film.
Really? Were they a
Yeah,
stormtrooper or something?
no, he was actually a named character in Rogue One.
Oh, well. They also did the remix of the Shaun the Sheep theme tune for the Shaun the Sheep movie, which is what I think of when I think of Wrestle Kings.
You also had like Levels by Avicii was in here, Paradise by Coldplay. Kelly Clarkson was here with Stronger.
This is a strong era.
Yeah, Sexy I Know It by LMFAO.
Oh, man.
You did have Video Games by Lana Del Rey. This was in there. Good song. Somebody That I Used to Know by Goatia and Kimbra before they both disappeared. So yeah, rough time for music. In the film chart, got me off the right one. So let me go all the way back to 2012, January. No, it's done again. So I can't get the film chart up because my app's not working. So we'll go straight into the team lineup. So do you want the Dragons or do you want the Ospreys first? Because both are equally entertaining.
Should we start with the Dragons?
Yeah, it's normally away team goes first, isn't it? That's the
okay. So on the Dragons, starting at Lucid, Phil Price.
Oh yes, good player.
Good player. In
just
hooker,
about, but good player.
Who do you think was at hooker?
Sam Parry?
It was Sam Parry.
Young Sam Parry.
Young Sam Parry. Probably had an Ospreys jersey underneath his Dragons one because he was fuming. So yeah, young Sam Parry. Then you had at 3 was Dan Way.
Dan Way was, yeah, I remember Dan Way. He had like very like tall ginger hair, sort of like 105 a Bubsy Conan O'Brien. Yeah.
Ended his career at Newport Saracens. Then you had Royce Cadman.
I have no idea of that man.
So when I first heard Royce Cadman, I'm like, if you're not like a 60 cap Canadian international, then what is the point? But he's not. He played for Doncaster and Bedwas and twice for the Dragons, which is disappointing. Then you had Javon Groves.
Javon Groves, good player.
Javon Groves,
greatly underrated. Like was a sevens playing second row, who was the sort of player that when I was, what would I have been here, like 12, loved because, you know, he was a really athletic, dynamic, lock. But
I remember him.
Yeah, played for Cardiff a bit as well, I think.
Played for Hong Kong.
Really?
He's now working in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay. But yeah, just like one of those players that when you're a kid you rate very highly and you don't know why he isn't picked more. Then I haven't watched him recently, but I imagine as an adult you'd probably be like, oh, because he didn't hit any rucks. Zach Mercer effect.
He coaches the Hong Kong Sevens team, I think. He posted on LinkedIn 3 days ago with something, but he seems like a LinkedIn wanker, so I'm instantly turned off. Javon Groves. Then moving into the back row, you had Hugo Ellis.
Yeah, vague memories of playing for the Dragons. He had a brother, didn't he? He was
Andy Ellis.
Andy Ellis.
Yeah, because he was a this guy was a he was they're both England sort of age grade players. Obviously, Andy Ellis played a bit more. Darren Waters.
Again, vague memories of, yeah.
Played 17 times for the Dragons. Jamie will be listening to this now and be like, yeah, good players. Great players. And then at 8 was Ian Jones.
Good player. Played for the Ospreys as well. And Cardiff.
Yes, played for Cardiff. That was definitely at Neath. But pretty sure played for the Ospreys as well. That was his pack. So some good players in that pack, I think.
Yeah.
So then we move into
that's a good pack in a very second choice of the Dragons in the 2010s kind of way.
Yeah, and they were already scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
You had Joe Bedford at scrum half, had a really interesting career trajectory where it started at Doncaster Knights, Pontypool, Rotherham, Yorkshire, Saracens, Sale Sharks, and the Dragons as well. Like he's really done. He really like hates standard of living, doesn't he?
That's one weird career process of going through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you had Stephen Jones at 10. No memory of.
Yeah. No, so I remember Steph Jones. He was good. Had like Jay from the In-Betweeners hair. Had a big breakthrough where there was a game between the Dragons and Cardiff. They got called off for a frozen pitch or something. Then rearranged, and he came in to play his first game of professional rugby at fullback and scored a try from doing an outrageous like dummy reverse flick, and went straight through and scored in the corner on maybe 5-10 minutes in. And Dragons fans anointed him as the future man who shall one day rule the world, and he was okay. And in the following season, they had who would have been their fly half at the time left.
In 2012?
Yeah.
Wasn't by Flanagan, was it?
No. It'd be they had Jason Tovey. It would have been Tovey went to Cardiff.
Oh, Tovey, yeah.
Yeah. And so they were left with him and Orwell Robson, who is one of the greatest rugby players that I have seen in my life. And they were left with those two kind of battling for the 10 shirt, and neither of them kind of laid it down. And I think both of them ended up playing the championship a few years later.
Of course.
But yeah, Steph Jones was good player. Rated him. Good fun. As I say, Jay from the In-Betweeners hair, which is now rare in a rugby player.
Also, just searched him up. He had like a Fred Durst like soul patch as well.
Yes.
So on the wing, then, a player who I actually remember was Patrick Leach.
Patrick Leach on the beach.
Who did score this game, Played about 50 times for the Dragons. Good player.
Great player. Really rated Patrick Leach.
Yeah. The centres are a bit weird, right? I don't know if you can guess who the outside centre is.
Rodrigo Davis.
No. Yes, do you have a guess?
No, I don't.
Okay, so the inside centre first was Lewis Roblin.
Oh, yes.
Sort of remember.
No, it was Lewis Roblin was the other 10. Sorry, not Orwell Robson. Orwell Robson came after. It was Lewis Roblin was the other one. Yeah. His dad
I'm pretty sure it's still on like
or
32, maybe, or something like that.
Oh, man, Lewis Roblin. Decent player, Lewis Roblin.
Yeah, he's only 32. He's playing for Blackheath.
Wow. Yeah, was one of those players who sort of got talked about a lot as a 20-year-old or something, and then didn't quite make it at the Dragons and eventually got let go. I think early Bernard Jackman era.
So
scored a try in a win over the Ospreys in 2012.
This was that was like 20 days before this, where they beat us 21-20 at Morganstone Brewery Field. Right, partner in Lewis Roblin was Andy Tuolagi.
Of course!
Oh, wow.
Of course! I remember my dad watching this game and describing it as like a Tuolagi tribute act.
And Anatelea Tuolagi played in this game. He was at Dragons until he was there for 2 years. Played 42 times for the Dragons.
I thought he was there for about 3 months.
Yeah, same here. That's why I was like, I had to check. I was like, shit, he played 42 times.
It screams like a short-term injury cover because they've like ran out of centres.
So where do you think he ended his career?
Oh, geez. French third division?
It was French third division. He played for Tarbes Pyrenees Rugby.
Yes. One of those towns that when I was in France at the World Cup, you'd go by and you go, oh, I know they exist because I've seen them in the French league structure.
Yeah. So Andy Tuolagi, I always forget, played like a good. It's not even like played like 3 matches like JJ Engelbrecht. No, he genuinely played like 42 times in Dragons, and I cannot remember it whatsoever. So then on the other wing then was Will Harries.
Yes, Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Look, Will Harris. Look, this is the peak of good player for me. It's Will Harris and it's Tom Haberfield, two of my favorite players of all time. I love Will Harris and I miss him endlessly. Was from Bedford Blues originally.
Yeah.
Was Welsh qualified, signed for the Dragons. I think I can't remember, he made his debut one week and his second game was against Saracens and he scored 2 tries out of nowhere and the Dragons won away at Saracens at the start of them being really good.
Played for Wales Sevens.
Yeah. Yes, of course, that was it. It was Bedford Blues and Wales Sevens, signed for the Dragons. Went on to win his first cap, got called up by Wales in 2010 for the Tour to New Zealand after Shane Williams got an injury. Won his first cap off the bench, then started against Australia that autumn, and played perfectly well. Was good. Didn't get much opportunity. Then in the last minute, he went, or last few minutes, last 3 or 4 minutes, he went on this brilliant winding run. We beat Ashley Cooper, all ends up, beat Matt Gitto, went inside out around Drew Mitchell, kind of beat that legendary Australian backline, and then got hauled down. Whatever, who cares? Following week. There's this young kid who's fit again, so Wales decided to give him a go. That kid is called George North, and Harris finds himself dropped. And Harris would play Wales once more, which is against the Barbars a few years later. But I loved Will Harris. He was sort of Shane Williams in the way he glided around. He's one of those players that hit me at exactly the right age and forever one of my favorites. Like, if I could create an all-time personal barbarians team, he's possibly in there. I love him, and I could talk about him for hours, as you're finding out right now.
It's a perfect quiz question for who was the winger that moved out the way for George North, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's going to be a brilliant one in about 10 years' time. There's going to be people out there scratching their heads on who it is.
Who could it possibly be? This young winger who was being viewed as the future that summer.
If he's still playing.
Oh boy.
He went to Ealing after his.
He did, but he was at also Chinner he signed for Chinner afterwards, and I'm trying to find out if he's playing for Chinner under Nick Easter.
I think he's retired now.
That would be so good if he did.
But for a long time, kept tabs on him and just hoped he'd come back. He's 37 now. So
that's what I'm saying. He could still well be playing in Chinner.
Yeah.
No, he's not. God, that's disappointing. Played for Ealing up until 2019 when Ealing got a bit of money. So it was fair play. So, and then finally was Jamie Smith at fullback. Who was Irish. It was the least Irish name ever. Was from Bally. He's a Belfast boy. So on the bench, then very quickly.
Will Harris is now a quantitative surveyor. So
doesn't surprise
good
me.
for him. I hope he glides around the quantities he's surveying.
Reece Buckley, hooker, perfectly serviceable hooker. Still only 34. Aaron Condley.
Yes, Coundley. Vague man.
Coundley, that's the one. Caerphilly boy. Then you had Kieran Jenkins.
No memory whatsoever.
Yeah, only played 6 times for the Dragons. Danny Hodge.
Well, no idea.
Played 1 time for this was his only game for the Dragons.
Mate.
Josh Tyler. They were really scraping the barrel down here. Really scraping the barrel. Jonathan Evans.
Oh, good player. Jonathan Evans was a good player.
Yeah.
Solid. Yeah.
Solid player.
Underrated. My granddad was once in the shop behind his mum, because he's from Australia, near my grandparents, and his mum was complaining to the lady at the checkout that he should be playing more for the Dragons.
Then you had Luke Williams at centre. Again, only played twice.
No.
And then Geraint O'Driscoll.
Yes, who had no Irish links.
Yeah, he's like the millennial Gethro Callahan.
Yeah.
But Gary O'Callaghan, no offense, is probably a bit more talented. So yeah, that was the Dragons. That was peak bottom of the barrel Dragons team. So now we get into a January 2012 Osprey squad.
Now we're talking.
There are 2 debuts in this game, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
Right.
So
Stefan Watermeyer, we've already talked about that.
Stefan Watermeyer. Sam Davis was on the bench, wasn't he?
Sam Davis was on the bench.
Would this have been his debut?
No, Nipper played before this, didn't he?
No, would this have been Sam Davis's debut? Because Nipper had played a pre-season game. We scored a hat trick, and then played that game against Leicester that we talked about.
Let me have a look. I have the player records for here. I can tell you. This was Sam Davis's debut.
Oh, yes.
There's another one who I didn't factor in, actually. So I will come to him in a bit. Okay, so let's start. So at Loosehead, you had Kai Griffiths.
Yeah.
Mammoth, good player, doing fantastic things at London Welsh. Worked a lot of Swansea Uni as well. So Kai Griffiths, Scott Baldwin, who would have been young-ish at this point.
23 he would have been.
Fringes of the Wales squad.
That would have been before that, because he was quite a late developer, Scott Baldwin.
And then obviously played at the 2015 World Cup. Played well at the 2015 World Cup, actually.
Yeah. His first cap was the summer tour in Japan. Which would have been 2 years later.
Yeah.
And I think he'd kind of just broken into the Ospreys team that season before he won his first cap.
And then Aaron Jarvis, tight head, good player.
A classic.
We go. I can't remember which episode it was, but go back into the archives and listen to those peak Aaron Jarvis chat that we went into. Lloyd, he's down as Lloyd Ashley here, but he was Lloyd Piers, and always will be in my heart.
He is without a peer.
Yeah, perfectly serviceable club player, and I love him for it. Massive head. Really big head. He would have been young at this point, actually. He would have been. He was 20, early 20. Yeah,
he was 20 at this stage.
He was, So he would have been one of the. James Good partnered him in the second round.
Yes, he was okay. I think I underrated James King for the first couple of years of his career because I saw James Good, who was fine, who was a perfectly decent 4th or 5th choice lock.
Went to Falcons, was from Whitchurch. I was at Whitchurch the other day. Ended up playing for... he played for Manawatu in 2007, 2009.
Wow. Oh, that was... Yeah, the Ospreys had a period of sending players out to the ITF. Yeah, they sent a load of players out to the ATM. Yeah, so Jonathan Spratt went and played in New Zealand and a few others.
Played for the Manawatu Turbos. I want to see the internationals. Who were their All Blacks? Christian Cullen.
That's all right.
Future Ulster captain Aaron Cruden. Who else? Who do I recognise here? Nagani Laumape. So he's up there with the greats. James Good is in there. I can't remember him. I won't lie. I do tell you who I do remember. Chauncey O'Toole.
Yes.
Now we're talking.
There was a piece on Wales Online before he signed for the Ospreys calling him the best amateur player in the world and was really being hyped up. And then signed for the Ospreys, bombed that one try, played this game where I think he was pretty good from my memory. And that was that. Probably played about 5 or 6 games with the Ospreys?
He played 5 games for us and then was so shit he got sent on loan to Bridgend. Where he played 3 games at Bridgend. Weirdly played 1 game for Glasgow beforehand as well. Obviously, who we signed him from.
Was he the best semi-pro player in the world, though?
Yeah. He his previous played for RGC. Was last seen as a firefighter in
Oh wow.
in Canada, I think. I can't remember what he looks like. Chauncey O'Toole.
Oh no, I remember. I would if I walked past him in the street, I'd go, "That's Chauncey O'Toole." It's one of these things that I know. Like, yes, I think you've got the same thing where things hit you at the right age and they'll be in your head forever.
Well, he looks
And
like a firefighter.
you might not appreciate it now, but like with age, you realize like, oh, I don't remember half of my friends' names, but I remember everything about the Osprey squad from when I was 14.
I don't remember half of my friends' names now. I'm being brutally honest.
And one of them is Morgan Morse.
And well, it's either that or the fact that there wasn't many around when I was growing up. So maybe the Osprey squad did kind of take
It's
over.
true.
But yeah, who knows?
Common.
Sam Lewis at 7. He was good at this point.
Yes.
Good player.
Big player.
Always loved that try against Connacht he set up, the Hassler one, where he makes a tackle on the blind side, like inexplicably gets the jackal, and then gives it gets it off to Hassler.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I saw that as well. Don't worry. Sam Lewis, yeah. Is he still at Hartbury? I think he's at Hartbury, isn't he?
Oh, maybe.
I'm pretty sure he's at Hartbury still.
Could
Somewhere
you-
in the English Championship, I think. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Harper does sound right.
So obviously he was at Worcester for a long time.
And then Bristol. No, he played for Bristol for a bit, didn't he?
Yeah,
Oh, he did,
went
yeah.
from a little stint to Bristol, of course.
Yeah. Went grey very early and looked suspiciously like Littlefinger off Game of Thrones. Mainly in this photo that I'm going to put in the chat, and it does look a bit like Littlefinger. But also looks like Peter O'Mahony if you have to draw Peter O'Mahony from memory.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know how it's described. That's the best way I could describe it. Is if you had to draw Peter O'Mahony from memory, that's how I would draw him. Yeah, had 2 games with Bristol Bears.
9 games for Bristol.
Oh, 9 games out.
Yeah, his Wikipedia's out of date. I checked 2 sources because I am a Sam Lewis stan.
Of course, brother of Ben Lewis, who was also a good player.
Yeah.
Obviously had to retire very tragically early. Yeah. Okay, yeah, he was a good player. 115 games for Worcester in total. 41 for the Ospreys.
Only 41?
Mm.
He made his mark in those 41, didn't he?
Yeah, he was very good in them 41 games.
Mm.
Morgan Allen at 8.
Still playing now. Yeah.
Still going. Still trudging along.
Scored a winning try against Gloucester for the Ospreys once.
Did.
Yeah.
Could have used him this weekend.
Good beard. Didn't he play for Ealing as well? Or am I making that up?
Ooh. I think he might. Didn't he just go straight to Cardiff? I can't.
Yeah, he did. He played for Ealing for a year.
Wow.
He played for Ealing. Obviously, he was at Scarlets then. Boo. And inexplicably had 6 appearances for West Wales Raiders rugby league team.
Yes, I do remember that.
Did he get? No, he didn't get Wales Cup. 10 games for Wales under 20s though. He apparently he's related to Andy Allen, his father, who played for Wales in 1993 times. He played for Ealing. Yeah, he went from Carmarthen Quins to Ealing, and then to Bedwas to Cardiff, and then where is he now, Justin? Is he at Cardiff still?
Yeah, he's still at Cardiff. He was captain at the start of the season when they headed to Sardis for their derby, but I think he's still playing as well this season.
Yeah, good player. Then the Mole at 9, Tom Haberfield.
Oh,
man.
We've got both Will Harris and Tom Haberfield here. This is the best game of rugby that's ever been played. My 2 favourite rugby players. It doesn't get any better than this. I've got to pretend that like Lacan you am or whatever. No, if it was up to me, every single video would be about Will Harris and or Tom Haberfield.
136 games to the Ospreys, I'm pretty sure. Wow. Just, I'll never forget. He's still only 31, for fuck's sake. He could do a job. Why aren't Cardiff picking him up?
Why aren't the Ospreys picking him up?
Surely he's better than Matthew Aubrey.
He is. He always has been. This is a topic of some ire for me.
I never forget your quip in that. I can't remember if it was the first Ospreys video or one of the. I think it was it the Conor Murray one, where you go you go to the most consistent scrum halves in the world, and it's like flashing up like really good scrum halves, and then Haberfield pops up at the end, and I'm like, well, he's not wrong, because I knew of your inexplicable love for him, having sharing it myself.
Yeah.
So, but it's like a joke that literally only the 3,000 that turn up at the stadium can get.
Yeah. But like we would on the way down to Bristol the other week, me and Will were running for our favorite, like not a favorite players 50, but players we most enjoy cheering for. And that or our favorite players of all time team. Like Haberfield is in there for me. Like
that'd be a good one.
him.
We should do one of them.
Yeah. That'd be great fun. Yeah. He's maybe even captain. You know, I love Tom Haberfield. He's one of my all-time favorite players. I remember it might have been that video, it might have been a similar one because I put a lot of Tom Haberfield references in early on in Squid Rugby videos.
Actually, bring it back, I say.
I know there was going to be one in the Gibson Park one, but then it just like got left out, which is a shame. Gonna rework the video in the final going up on Sunday to suddenly be entirely about Tom Haberfield and see if those South Africans still click on it. I remember the one being like someone saying like I'm learning about the game a lot, and I was looking through these players and I recognized like Brian Habana and I recognized Johnny Wilkinson or whoever, but I didn't recognize the third player. And so I looked him up and I discovered it's a young scrum half called Tom Haberfield, and I'll keep an eye on him because he's clearly one of the most talented players in the world.
And that player grew up to be Antoine Dupont. So then you had Nipper at 10. Andy Howell was in the crowd here. Clearly,
this is I think one of the core Nipper texts. It's the other game at the Brewfield against Leicester. There was a handful of them where he absolutely carved up.
He loved playing against the Dragons, is what I remember.
Yeah,
because you had that one where he went the length of the field at Liberty as well, when Dragons were playing in that awful blue and black.
Yes, and that Ospreys backline is really interesting as well. I'm pretty sure Bigger played the night at 12.
Yeah.
Memory serves me correctly.
Wow.
Eli Walker on one wing would have been a young Eli Walker there.
Yeah.
Just before he caused havoc in Europe.
Yeah, this was just pre-Europe. You're right, where he batted around Toulouse.
19 years old.
One good player. And then making his debut, Stefan Watermeyer.
A legend, a hero, a greatly underrated player I greatly enjoyed, scored a brilliant try. Also had a moment where I think he ripped the ball and got turnover and threw like a 50-meter pass off his wrong hand wide, and someone made a break off it. Probably, Walker or Dirksen. Spoilers. And I think it might have been Eli Walker. Eli Walker scored a try, didn't he?
Yeah, he did score a try.
I think it was his try, was Watermeyer ripping the ball off someone and then throwing it immediately wide to Walker, who was unmarked because, the hadn't been set up to defend, and then ran it in from there. Always wanted to see more of him. Never quite happened for him at the Ospreys.
Why he was released from the Ospreys?
No.
I remember the injury he suffered after scoring a brace against Cardiff.
So he scored a try in his debut and was named man of the match. But he was released because of the implementation of a salary cap.
Oh.
So that's why he was released and then joined the Pumas of the Greekers. I can't remember.
Greek was, and then the Pumas the season after. Wow.
With the salary cap. So, shame we couldn't sign him on a central contract, eh? He went.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because of a salary cap. Partnering him was 103-year-old Sonny Parker.
Good player. Great player.
We've said so much about Sonny Parker that it's just becoming boring. Hanno Dirksen on the other wing. He would have been young Hanno Dirksen.
Yeah.
Obviously would go on to demolish Munster a few months later.
And win the entire league thing away at Leinster.
Was that this or was that the year after?
No, there was this year, 2012, isn't it?
This was January 2012, so would this been 2011, 2012?
Yeah, it would have been this season.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, I'm being stupid. And then Ross Jones
where's
at
your
15.
central contract?
Yeah, where's my central contract? Ross Jones at 15.
Two Irish qualified players at fullback.
Mm.
Because there was the infamous tug of war between the Ospreys and Connaught for Ross Jones, who hadn't decided whether he wanted to play for Ireland or Wales. And in the end, it didn't matter. He ended up playing in the Super Six in Scotland, inexplicably.
It did, actually. I think I follow him on Instagram, so I can't keep up with it.
All of this is just in my head forever.
Speaking of 103-year-old players, Mevin Davis was on the bench.
Oh, yes!
Oh.
Jeez, I guess he retired this season.
Loved that era of like, oh yeah, he was 39 at the time, Mevin Davis.
Yeah.
39-year-old Mevin Davis as a player coach. Loved it.
Joe Reese on the
Yeah.
bench.
Vague memory of. Was a
Johnny Thomas.
Yeah.
Is the other prop.
No memory of Johnny Thomas.
Sam Williams. Remember him?
I don't.
Pretty sure he played for the Whites a bit, Sam Williams.
Mm.
Rory Pittman. Big lads.
Two separate players that got signed by the Scarlets, played a few games, got hyped up by the Welsh press, and then sort of disappeared to go and play in the Welsh Prem.
Very
at number
big
8.
Lad. I think he played that Christmas in the 2012-2013 season against us. I think it was that year. Let me have a look. Pro. Oh, it's going to annoy me.
It was.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
He played against us. Tom Grabham then was replacement scrum half.
Decent player. Kind of the pound shot top of the field.
It's weird that both the nines could also do a shift on the wing as well.
Didn't he have a brother?
Oh,
yes, he did. Yeah.
Yo, back row, open side flank.
Yeah.
Played one game for the Scarlets in 2017. Tom Grabham.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like against Bristol, maybe. Debuts. So the one we covered earlier, Sam Davis made his debut.
18 years old, I think.
18 years old. Nigel Davis's son, Amanda's son as well. Don't forget Amanda Davis. A lot of hype around him. Stuart Barnes would go on to glaze over Sam Davis and his wand of a left boot. Probably never really fulfilled his potential, but was very much obviously unlucky to be stuck behind bigger. And a very talented pool of 10s as well, with the likes of Patchell, Priestland, early years of Anscombe, but just such a good player, man.
Still causing chaos in the Pro D2 as well.
Yeah, he's actually tearing it up down there, and now has apparently got the best gin in the world or something like that. I think he got voted.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the drop goal from a couple of weeks ago, just go and watch it because it's brilliant.
If you are listening, Sam, please send me some gin.
And also say hi to Will Hickey for us.
Yeah. Say hi to Will Hickey. Yeah, that's a deep cut joke that not many.
That's for the regular
know.
Listeners.
That is for the regulars. So, who do you think was at 20 when he was wearing 23 and made his debut?
So,
this could be a new one.
Yeah. Are they still at the Ospreys?
They're still at the Ospreys right now.
Okay. So,
this narrows it down a lot.
So it's an outside back. Yeah. So it's too early for Watkin. It couldn't. Was it Dan Edwards?
Yeah.
No.
Dan Cassende.
Tell you what. No, because I remember Keelan Giles' debut was against Benetton years after this.
Yeah, it's not Giles.
Was it a pre-Sevens Luke Morgan?
was pre-sevens Luke Morgan.
Wow. Back when he just had pace, not sevens pace.
Yeah. So this was Luke Morgan's debut for the Ospreys.
Wow. All those years ago.
And you forget how long he's been at the Ospreys, because you forget he's an academy boy.
Yeah.
That just happened to go and play for Wales Sevens for like 5 years or whatever, 6 years. So yeah, Luke didn't get a yellow card, disappointingly.
Oh man.
Obviously he got his Wales cap. He had a lot of hype in his Wales cap, right? And then they never passed him the ball.
Yeah, that was a weird. Yeah, because my mother, we were discussing international players a couple of days ago, me and my mother, and she's a really big Luke Morgan fan for whatever reason.
He's handsome lad, very handsome lad.
Potentially, and for some reason, my mother's got some sort of weird phobia of wingers cutting inside off the wing. I don't know why, and yeah, but this conversation ravels on about internationals in the Ospreys camp. And I said, "Oh yeah, Luke Morgan. There's another international for you," and her jaw dropped because, and then I just remembered his debut, thinking he had about an hour of 65 minutes against Scotland, and he rarely did. Did he even have a touch?
I think he touched the ball once, and it was like carrying the ball back in his own 22 and dotting it down for a dropout.
It was depressing.
A weird debut after a really good run of form in the build-up.
Yeah.
Has had 9 yellow cards for the Ospreys, by the way, and 1 red card.
But so his run before that Wales debut was 4 tries and 5 starts.
Yeah.
Which is not bad.
Which wouldn't even get you a look in at the Wales squad in a minute.
No, not if you play for the Ospreys. If you're playing for the Scarlets, you're automatically starting.
If you were 12 years old and played for Cardiff, is about to make his 100th appearance. Cool. If he plays, he's got 2 games to 100. He's on 98 caps at the minute, which obviously wasn't 74 now. So
24 tries. So he's just 14 behind Sam Parry in just 2 games. No, he's 3 games fewer than Sam Parry.
Yeah.
No, yeah, 2 games fewer than Sam Parry.
That's mental.
He scored 14 fewer tries as a reasonably prolific winger.
So yeah, that's possibly the most niche good player we've done. Is an LV Cup game from January 2013.
I greatly enjoyed it,
and I don't think Robbie's ever been more happy.
This is my element. We'd come back previous week. We'd lost 24-14 to Worcester Warriors.
Well, you see, I looked at doing the EDF Energy or the Anglo Welsh from 2008 2009. But we were just really good and just beating everyone. So I thought, oh shit, 2007, 2008, sorry. So I thought, that'd be a bit boring, actually.
You want the list of players we release in order to avoid the salary cap at the end of that season?
Yes, please.
Here's a blast from the past few. So there's a few, right? So Matt Torrance, no real memory of. Ben Thomas, not that one.
No, not that one.
Trey Cross, Ken Dowding, who sounds like a Tory politician from the 90s.
Yeah.
And then we start to get into the names, right? So, Di Flanagan.
Oh, yeah, Di Flanagan was still there, yeah.
Cut for salary cap reasons. Rory Pittman.
Di Flanagan, yeah, we know that. Went to the Scarlets.
Barry Davis, one cap wonder. Who?
What was his nickname? 18 months, wasn't it? Yeah. 1.5 years.
He was, good player, Barry Davis.
Good fullback, player. Good fullback.
Really solid second choice for Lee Byrne.
Really synonymous with that black and blue kit we had.
Yeah. My dad would always talk about how many times he played really well for Wales, despite the fact he got 1 cap off the bench, and no idea what he was imagining there. No idea what he'd made up, but I've wondered that many times since. Chauncey O'Toole.
Yeah.
Stefan Watermeyer, tragically.
Yeah.
And Gareth Owen.
Oh.
Another what could have been. Ended up as a bit of a journeyman. Went to Scarlets, went to Leicester. where I think his career ended with a red card against maybe Northampton during that really poor Leicester
Did he
era.
like bulk up and become like a really decently bulky 12?
Yeah, he became like a big 12, like Boshy 12 for Leicester.
12. And I'm like, where did this come from?
Came
Like,
out of nowhere.
yeah.
But was the so Gareth Owen was compared to Gavin Henson by Scott Johnson infamously because he had olive skin and could play a variety of positions in the back line, which were why Scott Johnson said it. He mentioned his olive skin in the thing. And then
That's
after a
not dodgy at
preseason
all,
game
is it?
against Leeds, which is another game we'll have to do because I have a signed team sheet of that on my wall at my mum's. Went
You have
round
to go
like
to your mum's and get it.
yeah. The Ospreys squad was sat a few rows behind us. So we went round and like me and Will got our team sheet signed. We were maybe 12, 13, signed by the full squads. There's like Tommy Bowe, there's Shane Williams, there's Jerry Collins, his first season there. There were all sorts. But yeah, after that game, we've been man of the match, Gareth Owen. He tweeted something like, next Wales 12, you're looking at him. Then got released that season.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures of him at Leicester. Difference between him at Ospreys and him at Leicester. He's at Falcons as well, wasn't he?
Oh.
Yeah, he became a very bulky 12. Cool. Right, let's very quickly talk Stormers. We predict rotation, definitely, in certain positions. But maybe just be like, fuck it, we need league points. Who got released in like different seasons in my head now.
Sorry.
No, you're absolutely fine. Oh yeah, so I don't know what to think of it. It's just going to be different.
From the way Booth talked about it and then Cuthbert talked about it, the priority feels a 4-try bonus point as a realistic target. It's happened against, it was the Bulls last season, wasn't it? Where they went out and came home with that. Just picking up some points in order to stay in the hunt. Again, the URC supercomputer projected that we're going to need 49 points to get in. They're currently on 35. So if you're looking at wins against Cardiff and the Dragons as realistic, wins, you're looking at needing 3 or 4 points out of these games against the Bulls, the Stormers, and Leinster, which is the tricky one. Or you're hoping that, Ulster and Benetton and so on start to slip up more and more.
Well, we need Cardiff to be actually competent this week.
Yeah. If they can get over their troubles and make us all incredibly proud, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
But the rumours of Talupe Falata coming back might make that possible.
That'd be amazing.
That's true, yeah.
Real boost for Cardiff, that.
But yeah, if we do manage to get Jack Morgan or Derry Lake back, that'd be huge. But I'm kind of expecting a changed and younger team, as we've talked about, for both emotional reasons as well as for fitness reasons. A lot of these players have played an awful lot of rugby. I feel like Dan Edwards might get a go at 10. I think we might see a few of the, perhaps Morgan Morse might get a run out. Lewis Lloyd, a few of these younger players who have stepped up really well might get another chance to prove themselves and see how they can do. And our defense has improved massively over the last year. And last year we scored 4 tries and then just fell off enough that, led in 4 or 5 during those games away in South Africa late on. And if they can just maybe keep out 1 or 2 of those tries, they can potentially be in the hunt to pick up 2 points or even more late on, which has got to be the goal.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. If Stormers score a lot of tries, it's fine. Man, Liverpool will kick them anyway. So, we can stay in the hunt.
Also worth noting as well, the Stormers have a bit of an injury crisis going on.
Yes.
And they did not have many players left at the end when they scored that try to, they missed the conversion against La Rochelle. But yeah, they have some injuries. This might be a decent time to play them, to line it up. But also, they are very much targeting the league. This is their goal. This is all they're about. And they're really up for it.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, 4 try bonus point has to be the like target. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just seeing who we signed in 2013, 2014.
Go on.
So we signed. This is a really mixed bag. Tyler Ardron, good player.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Dwyer. Sam Williams, who's Aberravon, not Swansea.
Yeah, the name clicks now. I kind of got who it was.
Bridgend. Was he the one that played for Germany?
Yes, former Ponty player. He follows me on Twitter, weirdly. Yeah.
I say
Isn't he the Murphy man on Twitter? That's always stuck with me.
Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head, but you might be
right. Tito Tabaldi, Jeff Hassler.
Oh, man. That's a mixed bag.
Yeah, for transfers.
Rugby players.
Yeah, so, right. Sorry, I got distracted again. Stormers, let's go get a try bonus point and be somewhat competent, please, and actually go at them in the line out. Let's play to our strengths. Let's just go have some fun. Aim for that 1 or 2 points if we can. Obviously, we want to aim for the win, but getting just points out of South Africa is what we have to do. We've got the monkey off our back in terms of winning South Africa. So yeah, I'm. It's going to be tough.
I wonder if it might be a really good game for this team to have immediately after the quarterfinal, where there is no pressure on them whatsoever. If they're coming into a game against the Dragons where they're expected to win, or they get Judgment Day, which is another big game they've got to get themselves up for. That's maybe more difficult, even into a semi-final, where you could see that I think there was the weight of the previous few weeks had weighed on them a bit, and coming into 3 games back to back where they're not expected to get a result with a week off in the middle might be really good for this team, kind of rejuvenating themselves and building towards that end of the season. And particularly to say, if you can potentially, this is a Stormers team that are missing some key players with injuries. Daimani picked up an injury last time, and there's a chance, there's a Springbok alignment camp as well that I think is coming up. So there's a chance some of those players might be, the Leboks of the world, Willemses might not play, which would be a bonus. And maybe if the Stormers can be softened up slightly, you can potentially get into them a bit.
I think we can get into them anyway. Yeah. I genuinely think so. What was the last result with them? We drew with them, wasn't it?
16 after a Stephen Myler conversion, after a Scott Baldwin William Mull try. That was a weird Friday night game. That
was an awful game. That was a PRD ref game.
Oh, of course.
Yes, he was. Yeah, Paul DeWet ironically scored the first try of the night.
It was soaking.
That was
He banged like a 50-meter penalty in the rain. It was glorious.
That's a weird. That was a strange Friday night.
That was an awful Friday night. Right, so I think that's everything. I think we got way too carried away on that good play, and I absolutely love it. I feel like we've gone back to peak good play, and I'm definitely LV Cap might be my new hunting ground. That and pre-season games.
Oh, there's such golden pre-season games, man, out there.
Yeah,
not at the time, but afterwards.
No, God no. So that's us. I'm not going to be here now for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I will. By the time next week happens, I will have had the baby. So I'm going to be taking a break from the diary. The pod will continue with the capable hands of the boys. I will still record it for them, and various other things. I'll still be on the Twitter and doing all that stuff, but you won't see or hear me on the pod. Thank you to all the people who reached out, kind messages. It does mean a lot. I think we've built a really great community here at this podcast. So bottom of my heart, thank you. I'll see you when I do. I may be trying to come back for the Welsh derbies if everything goes smoothly. But from me and the boys, you can find us all on the regular socials, and we shall see you very soon. Goodbye, then.
Thank you for listening to the Ospreys Irie podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.